Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this November 3rd, 2016 day on our calendar. I'm your host, Greg Anthony. You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com. You can listen to my show every evening from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's on First Amendment Radio. They also play the show, folks, at 11 a.m. And if you can't get it there, go to my long-standing website, arcticbeacon.com, arcticbeacon.com, and you can get shows going back over a decade regarding what I call the Vatican-led New World Order. And those two first words are the most important. Well, folks, what day is it today? Thursday? I don't even know what day it is, to be honest with you. And I was really debating whether to do a show today or not. And the reason is that I'm on cloud nine. I feel like I'm 7 years old today. And the whole reason is the Cubs won the World Series. Yes, I never thought I would say that in my lifetime. And to be honest with you, I couldn't even watch half the game. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Throughout the course of my life, from the time I can remember walking and having a baseball mitt in my hand and a Cub hat on my head, that's the only thing I ever, I'll tell you what, I'm looking back now a number of decades, and I followed them through thick and thin, and every way along the way they lost in the end. And it was very sad. They haven't won a World Series in 108 years. What was that like back then? Did they even have a car? When were the Wright brothers? I don't even know if there are airplanes in the sky. In fact, I'm going to ask you a question. And who was the president when the Cubs won the World Series last in 1908? That's a good one. Oh, glad it wasn't Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, I'll tell you that. That's an amazing thing going on now. But 1908, can you believe this? And this is an interesting fact. The Cubs won it in 7 and 8. That's 1907 and 1908. And guess what the score was last night? Cubs 8, Cleveland Indians 7. Coming back from a 3-1 World Series. They were down 3-1. Come back. They had to win 2 on the road, which is really hard. And boy, they accomplished it. One of the most exciting baseball games that I've ever seen. And I'll tell you what it did. I'm going to give you a couple. Well, here's what I'm going to do on the show today. Here's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Cubs, because I haven't slept much last night. It was just an amazing, amazing evening to watch that happen. And I enjoyed watching all of the players talk after the game. And it had a lot of personal things for me. And I know there's a lot of people in the country who don't feel the same way I do about it. Well, you don't have the personal relationship with it as I did. And let me give you a little bit about that. Well, I'm going to talk about the Cubs. Secondly, I'm going to talk about Hillary Clinton, and I want people to realize what they're doing here. And election day is, 5 days away? And I want to make it very clear. If you elect her, you're electing a serial killer and her husband. And I'm going to play a little bit of a tape of a guy by the name of Larry Nichols. You may not remember him, and he confesses to the most grievous of things. Not to mention a little words on Benghazi and what she did. She had people in the State Department destroying records about Benghazi so her political career would move forward, when she realized she left 4 Americans to die, including our ambassador. Just an evil woman. And then thirdly, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Tony Alamo petition to get this man out of jail, out of prison. He doesn't deserve to be there. And we got a petition going, and I'm going to put it all together at the end, why this is important. It brings together the spiritual, the political, everything. And let me start by my personal feelings about the Cubs winning. I can't get it off my mind. First time I went into that ballpark, Wrigley Field. Everybody knows about Wrigley Field. When we were kids, when I first started to learn how to throw a baseball, we used to play out on Waveland Avenue, throw the ball against the bricks. And when we went into the game, it was only about 90 cents to get in. I can remember one summer I went to over 30 games. And boy, Ernie Banks was there, Ron Santo, guys you probably don't remember, Billy Williams, the whole shot. And it seemed at every turn we get to I can remember the Mets in '69 when, oh my I thought we were going to the World Series then, and then we lost a heartbreaker. We blew a big, huge lead at the end of the season. So, I got so many personal memories to baseball, to what it meant to me as a kid, playing baseball all those years, playing high school ball, then moving on to college and making a big mistake, but I had to, for financial reasons, I got a scholarship to play football, believe it or not. And then became interested in journalism. And, well, anyway, I can tell you this. Through my career, I talk about a lot of the hard news reports that I've written and worked on, but I did cover baseball for a while. And I was lucky enough to cover the Detroit Tigers when they played at Old Tiger Stadium. And I was a journalist, and that was a refreshing time in my life. I got to go to a lot of Tiger games. And then along the way, I was a high school baseball reporter. And let me tell you, that was more enjoyable than anything else I have ever experienced in sports. To watch those kids play, I enjoyed that more than the major leagues. It was fun to go to the games, fun to cover these kids, and that's some of my memories. And I could go on forever and ever and ever. But I thought I'd play something, and I haven't previewed. Well, I've listened to it years ago. It's about a 5-minute clip, and it talks about why baseball is such a calm and peaceful sport, and why football is so opposite. You play on a gridiron. In baseball, you go out into a nice, beautiful, grassy field. And along that field, there's 3 pillows that they call first base, second base, and third base. And if you're just out there having a leisurely game, you can rest your head on the pillows. And guess what? The whole point of baseball is that you're always coming home. Always back home. The whole idea of the game is to come home, get back to your home. Isn't it nice to know after you just crossed the pillows, circled the pillows, you're back home in that beautiful field, a relaxing game? And football, you gotta fight to get into the red zone, and you gotta attack your opponent. And nobody put it better than George Carlin when he did a 4-minute clip. And he's going to do this much better than I, so I thought it was a perfect time to play it if I could ever get it up. Here we will do it in a minute. Yes, I got to do this and this. It's a technical world we live in. Here's George Carlin talking about baseball and football. Come on, George.
I'd like to talk a little bit about baseball and football. Starting with baseball. Baseball is different from any other sport in a lot of different little ways. For instance, in most sports, you score points or you score goals. In baseball, you score runs. In most sports, the ball or the object is put in play by the offensive team. In baseball, the defense puts the ball in play, and only the defensive team is allowed to touch the ball. In fact, in baseball, if an offensive player touches the ball intentionally, he's out. Also, most sports, the team is run by a coach. In baseball, the team is run by a manager. And only in baseball does the manager or the coach have to wear the same uniform the players do. Can you picture Bill Parcells in his New York Giants uniform? Now, baseball and football are different from one another in other kind of interesting ways, I think. First of all, baseball is a 19th century pastoral game. Football is a 20th century technological struggle. Baseball is played on a diamond, in a park, the baseball park. Football is played on a gridiron in a stadium, sometimes called Soldier Field or War Memorial Stadium. Baseball begins in the spring, the season of new life. Football begins in the fall when everything is dying. In football, you wear a helmet. In baseball, you wear a cap. Football is concerned with downs. What down is it? Baseball is concerned with ups. Who's up? Are you up? I'm not up. He's up. In football, the specialist comes in to kick. In baseball, the specialist comes in to relieve someone. In football, you receive a penalty. In baseball, you make an error. Whoops. Football has hitting, clipping, spearing, blocking, piling on, late hitting, unnecessary roughness, and personal fouls. Baseball has the sacrifice. Football is played in any kind of weather. Rain, sleet, snow, hail, mud. Can't read the numbers on the field, can't read the yard markers, can't read the players' numbers. The struggle will continue. In baseball, if it rains, we don't come out to play. I can't come out to play. It's raining out. Baseball has a 7th-inning stretch. Football has the 2-minute warning. Baseball has no time limit. We don't know when it's going to end. We might have extra innings. Football is rigidly timed, and it will end even if we have to go to sudden death. In baseball, during the game in the stands, there's kind of a picnic feeling. Emotions may run high or low, but there's not that much unpleasantness. In football, in the stands during the game, you can be sure that at least 27 times you are perfectly capable of taking the life of a fellow human being. Preferably a stranger. And finally, the objectives of the two games are totally different. In football, the object is for the quarterback, otherwise known as the field general, to be on target with his aerial assault, riddling the defense by hitting his receivers with deadly accuracy, in spite of the blitz, even if he has to use the shotgun. With short bullet passes and long bombs, he marches his troops into enemy territory, balancing this aerial assault with a sustained ground attack which punches holes in the forward wall of the enemy's defensive line. In baseball, the object is to go home and to be safe. I hope I'll be safe at home. Safe at home.
Yes, George, safe at home at last, and the Cubs win their first World Series in 108 games. A little side note, the ratings this year, football's taken a big hit. Oh yeah, not as many people are tuning in, and baseball is on the rise. More people watch this World Series than World Series, I think, going back 30, 40 years. And some people say this will inspire more young kids to play what I consider to be a very safe, a very fun-loving game that I grew up playing. And I think Carlin hit the nail on the head there with all of his analogies. Yeah, great little 4-minute piece by George Carlin. Another thing, the reason football's taken a bit of a hit is because of Colin Kaepernick and his refusal to stand at the national anthem. Now, many people may say to me, "Well, Greg, you're not a very big patriot, are you? Do you stand at the national anthem? Do you disrespect your flag?" And I go, "No, I never would, never will." And then they say, "Well, that's kind of funny because you don't like America too much." I said, "Well, now wait a minute. I don't know how you can dislike or like a country. Countries don't have feelings. Countries don't have a heartbeat. Countries don't have anything. It's a piece of land. And the flag, what does it represent? Just that piece of land? Or does it represent the politicians, the crooked Vatican that snuck its way in here? Or does it represent the good people of this country? A majority of them are, that have been deceived. Oh yeah, that's what I think it represents. The hearts and souls of good people that have created the best they can do under the situation. And I'm telling you, we've done a good job considering what we're up against. Considering, when you start really looking at what we're up against, it's amazing that we've lasted this long. And so when that flag is raised, I never disrespected it, never would, never will. And the reason is not because of the country, because countries have no feelings. It's not because of the crooked politicians who want to make $1 billion. It's not because of the lying, deceitful Vatican who wants to make billions of dollars off of a spiritual movement that's flawed and pagan. It's about the heart and souls of the people, the many thousands of people, millions of people I've met over the years that have goodness in their heart and have been able to withstand despite these people. That's why I don't like Colin Kaepernick. I don't like these people that are dividing us, saying only Black Lives Matter, and that's a political movement. When we have police officers that are getting killed daily, when we have these our soldiers go over fighting what they believe is a good cause, and they die. It's just a travesty. Then they're not treated right when they come back here. And that leads me into my next discussion, and that's it's not a good one, but we have this presidential selection coming up in about 5 days. And we all know the stories. I mean, more people have been paying attention to the corruption on the Clinton side, the flamboyancy on the side of Donald Trump, nationalism on his side, globalism on Clinton's side, and what a crook she is. I've been following her since Arkansas, as well as Bill. Now, I have a little personal involvement, too. She lived in Park Ridge, Illinois, right near where I grew up. Yeah, I grew up probably 10 blocks away from her. I can't believe it. So I guess there's a little personal thing here, too. And just recently, this is I don't know, you can just take Benghazi, watch 13 Hours, the movie, but listen to recently what came out. Democratic presidential Hillary Clinton, who oversaw the State Department during the Benghazi attacks that led to the deaths of 4 Americans, may soon face federal charges for tampering with and destroying evidence. According to retired State Department whistleblower Raymond Maxwell, he caught Clinton's chief of staff and deputy chief of staff shredding documents in the State Department basement when he asked the aides who worked directly for then Secretary Clinton what they were doing. He says they were told to remove the documents and could be politically damaging. The remaining documents were then turned over to the independent committee that was investigating the attacks. Though Clinton has survived many scandals, this one may be the one that brings her down. And I think this is atrocious, because she was notified as Secretary of State, and the ambassador of Benghazi in Libya, had warned her, we need more protection. And after she disables Libya and disrupts it, bringing arms there to fund God knows who, she leaves our American embassy and its compound almost unprotected. And so when push came to shove and they brought no military there, nothing, just small group of our people were left to die. 4 died, including the ambassador, when he had sent over God knows how many emails for 13 hours. Please get us someone here. Clinton lied numerous times. There's emails proving it. The first email, she said her public story was that she thought it was a video that she was watching, when she had emailed her daughter and another person in the State Department stating that she knew it was an attack on our embassy and just let it happen. We have military a couple hours away in Italy. They could have been there. This could have been stopped, but she let it happen. She killed 4 people. Now she's going to say, well, I didn't tell people to shred this evidence. I didn't do it. She did it. She's like Harry Truman says, the buck stops here. And in the State Department, she was the head of that. She's totally responsible. That's just a small story, the Benghazi story. Small. That's one. It's huge. And what I mean by a small story, when you take all of the things she's done, the money laundering, the killings, you have a problem here. So what I'm going to do, there's a video here. I'm not going to play all of it. I'm going to start it here about 5 or 6 minutes. And it starts out with a quote by Hillary Clinton. She says this: "What a lying piece of you-know-what. People can judge me for what I've done. And I think when somebody's out in the public eye, that's what they do. So I'm fully comfortable with who I am, what I stand for, and what I've always stood for." Oh boy. Here's what Larry Nichols said, confessed hitman of Bill Clinton. And we've played on this show the hit list, the number of hundreds of people that have died that get close to any kind of scandal, going back to Mena, Arkansas, and the drug dealing, going back to Whitewater, going back to her cattle futures insider trading, going back to one after the other. And they seem to always be one step ahead of the law, right? They're right now being protected by the Justice Department that's been politicized. The FBI, the good FBI guys, have got so much dirt on her, they want to bring an indictment, and they're being blocked by a Obama appointment in the Justice Department that's protecting a criminal. Obama knew about these emails, knew about this false server she had on there, and it's also been reported that over 5 countries, 5 hostile countries like China, Russia, and several others had basically got all of our national security on her private server. Well, she was using an account to protect herself because of her dealings with the Clinton Foundation pay-for-play scheme that netted these people hundreds of millions of dollars, giving favors to foreign countries. And all of our information's been hacked. She had an account less safe than a Gmail account for private information, very sensitive information that could lead to deaths of people in our country. I'm going to start playing this for 3 minutes, and then we'll come back and finish it, because I'm running up against time here. I only got another half hour after this. Okay, here we go. We'll get this going. A lot of little noise here. Let's see. All right.
I was there at the beginning.
This is Larry Nichols.
I saw it all happen, from the corrupt to the absolutely corrupt. And that's when I thought about my father, who was dying of lung cancer, and what he would do if he knew the man I'd become. And then I thought about my daughter. What if the cocaine they were bringing in was to end up getting used by her? I hit my knees that day and asked God to forgive me. I wasn't a good person. I worked in special operations, Central America, South America. I did a lot of bad things. But I hit the bottom that day and said I was going to make up for it. And now, I just want to see these criminals brought to justice and get their just due. Not made president, but put where they belong, in jail. One thing about Hillary, Bill was just a good timing guy. But Hillary, she's an animal. Hillary is the one that I promise you, she pulls the strings. She pulled them in Arkansas. She pulled them in the White House when she was there as the First Lady. And my God, if she gets to be president, what you see out here now is going to change. We thought it changed with Obama. There's nothing compared to what's going to happen with Hillary. And I tell you right now, I will stop Hillary.
Okay, that's powerful words by Larry Nichols, who knows everything about the Clinton Foundation, knows everything about Clinton. And let's get back to that and play it, and then we're going to get into most of it in the second half hour. And I also want to get back to that petition about Tony Alamo, because it's very obvious that Hillary and Bill were responsible in the end for putting Tony behind bars. Remember, he had a small ministry in Arkansas as well, and he knows the whole story. And so let's get back to that big stuff here on the Investigative Journal today on this November 3rd, 2016, 5 days away from our next presidential selection.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
Okay, we're back for the second half hour of the Investigative Journal, and we're going through a three-prong approach today. We're talking a little bit about the World Series, a little bit about the presidential selections, and a little bit about the petition to help free a man who should not be in jail, in prison, Pastor Tony Alamo, who's been put there by the Clintons and all of the people that work for what I call the Vatican-led New World Order. Getting back to Chicago on a more serious side, no one knows the city better than me. And when you see the celebrations in Chicago right now, it's a North Side celebration. The city is divided, as our country is divided. I've known it's been that way my whole life, ever since I can remember. We were told as kids, never go to the South Side of Chicago. And one side's white, the other side's black. There's over 3,500 shootings in the west side and the south side of Chicago this year. Unbelievable crime wave going on. I think it's more dangerous there than in Benghazi and in Libya and in Syria. People can't even walk down the street to get a loaf of bread. The south side of Chicago and the north side are very different. And there's a dividing line. You go down the Dan Ryan Freeway, and I can tell you a story about a good buddy of mine. His name Tim Sullivan. And Timmy and I grew up, went to same Notre Dame High School together. I knew his brother Danny. And Danny was about 3 or 4 years younger than us. And one thing I remember when Danny was a kid, and we were kids, I can remember, we'd tell Danny, we were about 16 at the time, Danny, never go down to White Sox Park, Comiskey Park. And if you do go to watch a ball game there, you get in your car and you come right home. Well, I was a senior in college at the time. So was Tim. He was at the University of Illinois. I was at Western Illinois. And I got a phone call late at night from one of our friends, family friends. We had a very close-knit neighborhood, Irish, Polish, Italians, all good buddies, that Danny had been shot and he's near death. So immediately, me, a couple of my buddies, we hightailed it back to Chicago. I remember going into the doctor's room, going into the hospital, meeting Timmy, who was there already, and said that, yeah, Danny went to a White Sox game, and he decided to stop in and get a six-pack of beer for the ride home, and Danny was, I don't know, 16, 17 years old. And he was shot in the back by somebody for no reason, maybe just because he was white. And he's paralyzed from the neck down. Unbelievable story. He lived. But that was going on way back when, and it's worse now. So there's a story behind all this stuff too. Now let's get back to the presidential selection. An incredible story of a confessed Clinton hitman named Larry Nichols, who says Hillary must be stopped. I'll play a little bit of this.
Further than anybody we know of, and that's all we're going to say. And people can ask us 100 different ways and from 100 different directions, and we're just going to leave the ultimate decision up to the American people. I really just want everybody to take a deep breath and relax and just, sit back, because here they come again. We're going to have to just ride through this, as we have so many of these other false accusations.
Let me get the air clear about this. The email scandal, I believe, was brought out by the Clintons.
Now, I would be pleased to talk more about this important matter, but I know there have been questions about my email, so I want to address that directly, and then I will take a few questions from you.
You see, we knew running for election, you never want to run as the anointed one. You always want to run as the underdog. Now, it's kind of hard when you're building Hillary Clinton with all the hoopla and who they are now. How do you get to be the underdog? If you look at the email scandal, where did the email scandal come from? The New York Times. The New York Times has never been anything but a PR firm for the Clintons. Even if they had it, there's no way the New York Times would have broke a story about Hillary that could do damage to her. But look what she's done. They have used the email scandal to catapult them into an underdog status. Now, as we get closer to the election, when you get through the primary and you get into the general election, I can tell you, New York Times, read my lips. Go ahead and write the article. It's probably already written. Right? When they get into the general election, you know what they're going to say? They're going to say, oh, we've checked all this out, and it turns out there was nothing to it. That's what's going to happen. It's all used to stage Hillary. Now, if you don't believe me, remember when Hillary ran against Barack Hussein Obama. She should have used our system then, but she didn't. She came in and she was the anointed one, and he whooped her. She's not making that mistake this time. And by the way, if you notice, Hillary's also done the other thing you have to do at the formative stage of a campaign. She's gone around, she's sucked up all of the money that's out there. So anybody tries to run against her, I hear people ask me, what do you think about Biden? I don't think about anybody. What are they going to run against her with? They have already laid claim to the money.
I'm Mark, and I have something very, very important.
Once the American public begins to see the emails, they will have an unprecedented insight into a high government official's daily communications, which I think will be quite interesting. You may have seen that I recently launched a Snapchat account. Those messages disappear all by themselves.
You see, when Hillary gets in office within 6 months, according to the plan we wrote back in 1986, literally there's a plan called the 86 plan, and it's where we finalized and put everything down. within 6 months she will make Bill ambassador to the UN. When Bill gets to be ambassador to the UN, it won't be 6 months then, because of the Clinton Foundation, what they've used the Clinton Foundation for. It won't be 6 months until he's made Secretary General of the UN. Now, can you imagine the power Bill and Hillary have? I mean, they will have achieved more power than any couple in the history of the world when they pull that stunt.
On January 20th, 1993, William Jefferson Clinton became the 42nd President of the United States. At the time, most Americans were not aware of the extent of Clinton's criminal background, nor were they aware of the media blackout, which kept this information from the public. As State Attorney General and later Governor, Bill Clinton in 12 years achieved absolute control over the political, legal, and financial systems of Arkansas. As president, he would attempt to do the same with the nation by bringing members of his inner circle with him to Washington. The hijacking of America was underway, and its impact on future generations would be incalculable.
It was years ago when I was picked up by a man named Mr. Whit Stevens. And Mr. Whit was the brother to Jackson Stevens, and they were the kingmakers in Arkansas. So they called me one day and said, we need to meet with you, and I met with them, and they said, we need you to take a look-see at a guy that we think we can make governor, and we want him to be the youngest governor in the history of the country. So I agreed, and then that's when I met Bill. When I met with him, it was kind of weird because I was talking to him and he was chasing after the waitresses. And I would try to get his focus, and all he would do is just chase after the waitress. Just watch, man, I want some of that, man, I want some of that. And it just went on and on and on. And finally to the point where I had actually gotten a little bit perturbed about it and said, man, we got to figure this out. Oh, yeah. And he was Attorney General at the time. And so I went back the next day to Mr. Whit and told him what I thought. I said, Mr. Whit, this guy is a sexual predator. He's not just a womanizer. I mean, I'm telling you, this guy's sick. And he's a pathological liar. I mean, and I told Mr. Whit I couldn't even make him tell the truth. And when it came to something he could tell the truth on that would be harmless to him, he still couldn't tell it. Well, Mr. Whit said, you can break him of that. We'll have a talk. So I figured, what the heck. A couple, 3 weeks passed. They met with Bill. Apparently they got everything worked out the way they wanted it. And he was in the game running for governor.
Tonight, I ask all of you who have stood with me. I ask my opponents and those who have fought for them in their hard-fought campaign. I ask those who have believed in me and those who have doubted to join with me in common purpose. Let us put aside our fears for our hopes. Let us trust each other and work to forge a future that will enrich the lives of our people. A future that will strengthen our traditions and our faith. A future that will make us proud that in our time we gave our best. God bless you all, and thank you very much.
No, they didn't tell me anything about it. They didn't say anything to me about it. The airport in question, a matter for federal jurisdiction. The state really had next to nothing to do with it. We had nothing zero to do with it, and everybody who's ever looked into it knows that.
Your president of the United States, not only was a part of the system that was laundering millions of cocaine dollars, your president signed off on it. You can't deny that he did. You see, because of that, there's one little catch. Every loan ad made, Bill Clinton himself had to sign off on it. More than Bill Clinton. You better identify the people in the loop of the drug money. You better identify the people in the loop for money laundering. And what you'll find there is those people go straight to Washington. Act 1062, if you look at it, it says that ADFA was developed and created to provide low-interest bond loans for churches, schools, colleges. So now look what happened to our legislature. They voted on a bill creating ADFA, thinking that they were getting money to colleges and schools to buy books and so forth. What better way to run thousands of, tens of millions of dollars, launder it, clean it up, and use the clean it up and use the cover of a state agency to do it. When Oliver North, Poindexter, and those guys got KO'd, knocked out of the box because of Iran-Contra, I was asked to come down and help, and I did. I had to cut loose from there. It got bad. There was something happened with a little girl and her mother that I don't want to go over, but it fried my brain, and it was time to quit. My family said that why didn't I get in touch with my buddy Bill Clinton and get a job with the state and get out of that racket. I called Bill, and Bill said, "You bet, we've got a place for you." And he brought me on to this agency called the Arkansas Development Finance Authority. Now, as much as I had involvement with state government, I had never heard of that agency. And I was surprised to find out that its mission statement was that it would make low-interest bond loans to churches, schools, libraries, which was kind of odd because it also made loans to industry. Well, the problem with that was we already had an Arkansas Industrial Development Commission, and it was duplicating the work. What I found after about a couple of weeks of being there is it was strictly there for friends of Bill. We didn't loan money to churches. We didn't make low-interest bond loans to schools. We made low-interest bond loans to friends of Bill.
Jennifer Flowers, in a tabloid interview for which she was paid, says she carried on a long-term affair with Governor Clinton from the late 1970s through the end of 1989. Are you prepared tonight to say that you've never had an extramarital affair?
I'm not prepared tonight to say that any married couple should ever discuss that with anyone but themselves.
Quapaw Towers is the place where Jennifer Flowers had an apartment. Anybody in power in Arkansas knew Bill with his girlfriends and all that, but nobody would dare talk about it. I filed a lawsuit, and I brought them out. I named them. One of the women was Jennifer Flowers. Well, as was the day, Clintons controlled the media here. They wouldn't touch anything. I had a big press conference on the steps of the Capitol. All the media in the state was there. I walked all the way down the hall. They got it. They videoed me walking to the hall. Go to Bill's office, throw the lawsuit across his desk. Pretty dramatic, I might say. Nobody covered it. Nobody.
Eventually, every allegation stemming from Nichols' 1990 lawsuit and press conference would prove valid regarding Clinton's sexual liaisons, his drug usage, and his criminal activities relating to ADFA and Whitewater. Gradually, the women who had carried on adulterous affairs with Clinton began to emerge. Betsy Wright, Clinton's former chief of staff admitted she had been hired to conduct media smear campaigns against anyone planning to tell the truth about the governor's sexual habits. She was prepared to go after at least 26 women who had the potential of destroying Clinton's chance at the presidency.
During the 1992 presidential campaign, I was getting bludgeoned by the media because Jennifer Flowers had come out of my lawsuit. A man called me on the phone on a Monday. His name was Gary Johnson. He was an attorney. He told me that he felt bad because I was being bludgeoned, and he wanted to talk to me about handling my case. Well, I was craving an attorney, any attorney to help me.
You know, I saw Larry out there doing battle, so to speak, on his own, and I felt like he needed some help.
I met him on a Tuesday. He was a special attorney. I didn't even know it. You see, he lived next door to Jennifer Flowers. He told me that he had bought a bicycle, and there was a lot of theft in and up and down the halls of the apartment complex. So he put a camera so he could watch his bicycle. Well, guess what he caught on camera? He caught Bill Clinton going in and out of Jennifer's apartment with a key. Well, so he knew I was telling the truth about the womanizer. He certainly knew I was telling the truth about Jennifer. So I said, great. I said, you can get on board, but I warned him. I said, Gary, you got to be careful. He said, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm not scared of it. There was a Friday that we were supposed to meet, and I called. He didn't answer. Well, I called his office all day. He didn't answer. His office hadn't heard from him. That Saturday, we went to his apartment and found him. He had been bludgeoned. He had been beat horribly, and he had literally been left for dead.
Okay, we got about halfway through that. I think I'll finish it up tomorrow because I wanted to finish up and talk a little bit about the petition we started to get Pastor Tony Alamo out of prison. He's been put there by the Vatican-led New World Order and Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. This one of his churches where the raid in 2008 occurred after over 40 years of harassment was in Arkansas. And when you see the connections between the Clintons and the Jesuit order, you know, and the Vatican, you know why I make this connection. And Gary Johnson, that attorney that was killed by them, just one in hundreds of people that get too close to them, too close to all of their nefarious affairs throughout the year. And now we have one of the most sickening things to think about. We have a candidate like Hillary Clinton still in the race for presidency. It's just an amazing story. And I just wanted to let people know what their decision will be. Hopefully, if it's not a rigged election, you got to always worry about that. So let's see what happens. But getting back to Tony, how this all applies is very simple. Tony Alamo and his ministry have been targeted for more than 40 years by U.S. government agencies, including but not limited to the FBI, BATF, CIA, IRS, FBI. Informants have come forward with sworn testimony, similar to kind of what Larry Nichols is saying, that people were hired to frame Pastor Tony Alamo for his biblical and political views. He wasn't afraid to talk up against Clinton and making the connection that no one makes. And that's connecting the Vatican to all of this stuff, and that's why they brought him down finally. He sits in jail on crimes he didn't commit for so many years. And this sworn testimony by these FBI informants were not allowed in his trial. Furthermore, the ministry has been falsely depicted as a cult by government officials, and when you get to know these people like I have, it's a complete lie. And so all of this stuff connects, folks. When you start looking at the corruption in our government, how it make the connection to the Vatican. That's the one thing no one will do ever. That shows you how deep it goes. It doesn't just go as deep as the political scheme here. It goes right down to the heart of our First Amendment and freedom of religious rights. It goes to the heart of why this country was created in the first place. The hidden agenda is not just political. And we know that it's very simple to explain. The New World Order will consist of both a one world order government and a one world religion. Now, the ruling elite of the Vatican-controlled powers in our government were behind this. The Clinton connection and the connection to so many people in our government, it goes right to the Vatican and Georgetown University, the Jesuit University. Our goal is to have this 82-year-old pastor released immediately from prison. He has already served more than 8 years of a 175-year sentence. And we have somebody like the Clintons running around free, running for president. There is no better topsy-turvy thing I've ever seen in the world where good gets put in jail and evil gets rewarded. Somebody has to stop this. And Tony's presently in poor health. He was never afraid to talk up against all this stuff, way back when people weren't talking about it, back in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. He's not receiving the medical care that he should, and that's really all we want to do, is bring all of this. See, you can bring all this stuff together, and hopefully we can get him out of prison this year. And this petition, we've got over, right now with online and offline, over 400 people. Some of their comments are amazing, and we will get more because of the elections and all of the things going on in the country. Once the elections go over, right around after, we'll get through the holidays and then present this to people that may listen. And hopefully, if you've helped, thank you so much. And if you haven't, please go to Free Tony Alamo, or what is it, freepastortonyalamo.com, and you can read about it. Then go sign the petition. You can get a link there to go right to the petition. And hopefully, you can see the connections here between the what we're talking about with the Clintons, what we're talking about with this ministry and how they've been attacked by them, and all the tentacles that spread to make this a very, very, very important story. Back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie, with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character, as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy, in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.